The boutique owner's shriek ripped through the piercing damp of the morning. "What is this junk? Get it out of here immediately." Ethan pulled up next to the ancient Moskvich, its rusty shell looking like it would crumble onto the asphalt at any moment. The paint was peeling, exposing the metal. The sills were rotten, and one fender seemed held on by sheer willpower and a roll of wire. A sleek man looking like he'd stepped off a fashion magazine cover eyed the ancient car with disdain, then Ethan demanding, "This eyesore be removed from his street." Ethan was used to these ham kings of the world. With a sigh, he stepped closer to figure out how to hook up the wreck without it falling apart right in front of the indignant audience. But his gaze froze. On the Moskovich's battered dashboard, under a layer of dust, lay an old photograph. It showed a little boy in a bunny costume standing by a Christmas tree next to Santa Claus. From under Santa's white beard peeked a black, twisted mustache. Ethan's heart squeezed. He had the exact same photo in his childhood album, and he and his mum always laughed at that mustachioed Santa. Despite the client's pressure, Ethan acted on autopilot. He carefully attached the Moskvich, loaded it onto the platform, and drove off, putting distance between them and the shouting boutique owner. The thought of the photograph wouldn't leave him. He had to find the owner of this car. His own life lately resembled this wreck. Since a costly car was damaged at work due to his mistake, he'd been burdened with massive debt. 4 months of his salary, money, which was always scarce anyway, became a painful obsession. His relationship with Sarah, which once seemed perfect, turned into constant torture. Her demands grew, and complaints about his low earnings poured down like rain. Even though Ethan practically lived at work, he hated this job, the endless conflicts with car owners, the stress that kept him from sleeping. His youthful dreams of going to university shattered against reality. A good education required money his single mother simply didn't have. His mother, his only close relative. After her death, Ethan's world shrank to the 4 walls of his small apartment. He was completely alone, and a terrible, suffocating loneliness washed over him in waves. But one day, stepping out of the house, he heard a pitiful whimper. Behind the garbage can sat a small ball of red fur, shivering from the cold and rain, looking right into his soul with pleading eyes. "Oh, poor thing. How did you end up here?" Ethan whispered, scooped up the puppy, and took him home. He was late for work that day, but he didn't care. He washed the little guy, fed him, and named him Max. From that day on, a wagging tail waited for him at home, and life, even just a little, became easier. And then, the debt hadn't disappeared, but coming home wasn't so bleak anymore. Every call remained a lottery, a furious rich person, or a grateful pensioner. And today, the old Moskvich, and the mysterious photograph. Soon the owner appeared, an old man, grey and stooped, with unbearable weariness in his eyes. Seeing his car on the tow truck, he began to wail, begging for it back, explaining he'd parked illegally by accident. Ethan, trying to speak as gently as possible, suggested they sit on a bench. His heart was pounding with anticipation and fear. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cause you trouble," Ethan began, then decided to take the plunge. "There was a photograph in your car. A boy by a Christmas tree." The old man flinched, his gaze fixed on Ethan. "Yes, there is. My grandson, I think." He told his story, how he'd spent years working in remote regions, earning money for his family, how his wife convinced him to settle down for retirement, how their son Daniel took a wrong turn, became distant, and then went to prison, how his wife died, and he was left alone, moving to the country to avoid reminders of past happiness, the only thread to his son, which he could never pull, and how Daniel had recently called, mentioned a possible grandson, sent this photograph through a policeman friend, even gave the address of his ex-wife, the boy's mother. Arthur, that was the old man's name, was driving to the city, full of hope to find his blood, the only person left in this world despite having unfairly wronged his daughter-in-law years ago and now fearing he wouldn't be forgiven. Ethan listened, and every word the old man said resonated within him. The last name Arthur mentioned matched his own. The address, it matched too. A tremor ran through him. "Grandpa, that's me." Ethan's voice was barely a whisper. "In the photo, that's me. And Santa's mustache. I remember." Arthur suddenly turned pale, his breath hitched. Ethan grabbed his hand in alarm. "Grandpa, are you okay?" The old man didn't answer. He hugged Ethan tightly, and sobbed, not hiding his tears, clutching his grandson's hand as if afraid to let go and lose him forever again. They sat on the bench for a long time, just side by side, breaking the silence only with their ragged breathing and quiet weeping. Arthur decided to stay in the city. Guilt over his lost son tormented him, and he desperately wanted to help his grandson. Hearing about the debt, he remembered gold he'd hidden from his days prospecting. There was enough not only to pay off the debt, but also to lay the foundation for a new business. Ethan, supported by his grandfather, opened an auto repair shop. He poured his heart into it, and soon the service became known throughout the city for its quality and speed. From his grandfather, Ethan learned his father Daniel's last name. He found his grave and sat there for a long time, looking at the unfamiliar name on the stone. A man he had never seen, but whose blood flowed within him. The thought of visiting his father in prison bothered him for a long time. Something pulled him there. When he finally decided to go, he didn't know he was travelling not just to the past, but to the future. On the train, he met Clara. She was also going to the same prison to see her father. 2 days of travel, 2 lonely people who happened to be next to each other. Ethan couldn't help but look after the fragile, slightly sad girl. He brought her tea, covered her with his jacket on the platform. He went for a one-day trip to a shadow of the past, but found something incredible in the present. The journey back was melancholic. He missed Clara terribly. She had lodged in his heart. Remembering his past relationship mistakes, Ethan was afraid, but he knew nothing could stop him now. He was completely smitten. When Clara returned, Ethan had been waiting for her on the platform for an hour with a huge bouquet. Excitement choked him. He saw her stepping off the train, and the words tumbled out. "I waited for you all these days. I couldn't sleep at night. I know it sounds silly. We've only known each other a couple of days, but I want you to be my wife." He blurted it out in one breath, right there by the train car. Clara blushed, lowering her eyes. I thought about you every moment too, and I didn't believe we'd see each other again." Ethan was flustered. So that means no? You don't agree? I understand. It's too fast." She looked up, kissed him shyly on the cheek. "I agree. It wasn't very good without you either." The wedding was modest but incredibly warm and joyful. From Clara's side, only a couple of close friends. Her mother had passed away long ago, and her father was in prison. From Ethan's side, a few friends who now worked in his shop, and of course, the most important guest, Arthur. Faithful Max was also present. Falling in love with his new mistress at first sight, he lay at her feet all evening. This was their new family, assembled from the fragments of the past. A year later, they sold their city apartments and the grandfather's small house in the village, buying a large, bright house. They set up a spacious room on the ground floor for Arthur with all the conveniences. Though the grandfather barely sat in it, the garden beds called to him again. 3 more years later, Arthur had 2 new, far more important worries than the garden. He and Clara had 2 boys, born a year apart. The grandfather doted on his grandsons, and they followed him everywhere. "Grandpa, help! Grandpa, I can do it myself," echoed across the yard, accompanied by Max's cheerful barking. Watching them, Arthur smiled, finally finding what he had been searching for, and knowing that life, despite everything, had given him a second chance at happiness. If you enjoyed this story, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and leave your comment. It means a lot to us.